In this part, we're going to be looking at how we created this mesh skin, which is going to define the regions of the terrain that we want to create cliffs for. We can see that we have basically just got a simple triangulated mesh which represents some of the cliff regions, but also some of the more protruding regions that are a bit more convex on the terrain. We're going to turn all of this into kind of rock geometry. So in order to get there, we're first going to mask the input terrain, and we of course need to send this terrain over to Houdini. So depending on your project, you might already have your terrain being worked on inside of Houdini, but in this case, the terrain exists only inside of Unreal, so we need to find a way to get this terrain from Unreal to Houdini. In order to do that, we need to first of all make sure that we have the Houdini plugin installed. So there's plenty of information online about how to set up the Houdini engine plugin, but just to let you know, I'm working with version 20.5, and the plugin version is a slightly newer version there as well. So yes, oh sorry, no, that's not true. My slightly older plugin is running with a slightly newer version of Houdini. So you want to make sure that's all set up. And if you're familiar with the landscape workflows inside of Unreal, you will probably be familiar with the fact that you can go to your landscape editing mode and right click and import or export to or from a file. But it's actually much easier if we use the Houdini engine itself to send this landscape over to Houdini. And when I'm doing this, I just like to make a quick little utility. Actually, I have this on every project. So we're going to create our first HDA now for sending data from Unreal to Houdini. So first of all, we're going to create a subnetwork, and immediately we're going to go ahead and create a digital asset. This asset is going to be called Export Unreal Scene. And in fact, let's call it Unreal Export, or Unreal BGO Export, there we go. And we can put this under the Elderwood tab. The author or namespace here, we're going to set to Elderwood as well. And I think I'm also going to go and pick a custom save location. So let's go and find Project Elderwood, delivery, and we'll call this OTLs. Okay, and this is now going to save this HDA in this location. Just to verify, we can once again go to this location and check that it indeed exists. There it is. So we now have our first HDA, our first Project Elderwood HDA. And this HDA is going to be very simple. It's going to take one input and it's not going to have any outputs. So we're going to remove the output there. And all this is going to do is we're going to put down a ROP geometry output node, like so. We can remove this output node. And I'm going to go ahead and right click, go to the type properties, and we're going to promote two things. We're going to promote the output file path. That's where we're going to save this file to, and we're going to output the save to disk button. Okay. For the output file path, we could leave it on $hip, but we're going to just have to change this anyway when we go over to Unreal. So we'll deal with that when we get there, and we'll just ignore the rest of the name as well. Okay. All right. So not a lot of things going on at the moment, not very exciting, but we're going to save this anyway. And then we're going to go back over to Unreal. And we're going to create, if you haven't already, a new folder called Elderwood. And inside of that folder, we're going to create an OTLs folder. I'm going to open up the OTLs folder. And now we're going to go and find the HDA or the OTL that we just created. And we're going to go and drag this in. Okay. So now the Elderwood Unreal BGO export is inside of our Unreal project, and I'm just going to go ahead and instantiate that at the origin of the world. That's important that it's at the origin. And now in the details panel of this HDA, we can see if we scroll down a little bit, the user interface of these digital assets in Unreal can be a little bit confusing if it's your first time. But the most important thing you need to know is that all of the user parameters are just underneath the top section there called Houdini parameters. If you're having any issues with Unreal not seeing your version of Houdini, just double check again that you've installed the plugin and go to your plugin settings. If you're convinced you have installed it and it's saying it can't find your Houdini engine install, then what you can do is you can go down to where it says Houdini location, turn on use custom Houdini location, and then force the path to be the bin directory inside of the Houdini install directory, like I have here. Okay. So we've now got our HDA in the scene instantiated at the origin, and where underneath the parameter section we can see Houdini inputs. We're going to change this to world input, and this now allows us to make a selection of elements in the world that we want to export. And I'm going to go ahead and click Start Selection, and I'm going to go and then find this landscape actor and hit Use Current. Okay, so it thought for a second, but no complaints so far. Next up, we're going to go and pick the location that we want to save this to. So we're going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this the cache directory. Or yeah, we're just going to call it the cache directory. And we're going to call this the landscape_cache.bgo. And once we've done that, we can hit Save to Disk. And you see very quickly now it's export that to disk. So quickly, in fact, it makes me wonder if it's been successful or if it's giving us a false positive. I'm going to jump back over to Houdini. And now we can quite simply put down a file node and go and search for the cache that we exported from Unreal. There we go. So there we have it. We have the terrain as it appears in Unreal has now been sent over to Houdini. And you can see that this was very quick. So if we make any further modifications inside of Unreal, like sculpting part of the landscape, extending the tiles off in any direction, then we can just go ahead and hit Save to Disk once more with this HDA, which is still in the scene, and go and hit Reload in our Houdini project. Now it's totally possible to build Houdini workflows that run chains of HDAs inside of Unreal, but I just happen to prefer, while prototyping, having all of my data over inside of Houdini and kind of using that as sort of the environment where I do most of my work in. So next up, we're going to be looking at masking, and that'll be the next part of this series.